Hi, this is Mark Divine, and I am the host of The Mark Divine Show, which you're listening to right now. Thanks for being here. Super stoked to have you. On this show, I love to dive into topics that are of interest to me and hopefully you. I cover everything from neuroscience and peak performance and mental toughness and special operations and cool stuff like that. And sometimes even dive into leadership and scaling businesses like I am today with my guest, Logan Forsyth, who's founder and co-CEO of Media Scaling. Logan's renowned for his expertise in scaling digital marketing campaigns. They've achieved milestones such as generating over, check this out, 5 billion views and amassing 24 million followers for their clients just within 2 years. He's got a strong background, obviously, in digital marketing, and he's known for innovative approaches focusing on consumer behavior and, near and dear to my heart, positively impacting the world. Super stoked to have you here today, Logan. Thanks for joining me. Logan, welcome to the Mark Divine Show.
Thanks for having me on. It's an absolute pleasure to be here.
Thanks for being here, man.
Yeah.
All the way down from LA.
Yeah. Easy trip. We came in last night, skipped the traffic.
Yeah. So, you weren't affected by the fires at all last couple of weeks?
Thankfully, no. There were some people, like friends of family, et cetera, that were affected, and they got close to us, but thankfully nothing direct impact.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I want to jump right into it. You're kind of an unusual guest for me, right? Usually I talk to people from like peak performance or Navy SEALs or neuroscience.
Yeah.
Because I'm really into mental toughness.
I love all of those
I'm
categories.
sure. We can dive into any of that stuff. But what we do have in common is entrepreneurship. And now you're getting into kind of leadership. Like you've grown a company really fast. So I want to talk about some of those things because, I'm 6 years old. So my entrepreneurship and my leadership is coming from a really different lens. I'm really curious what that looks like for a 27-year-old these days.
Yeah.
So, how do you even look at leadership as a leader, as a business owner or partner?
Yeah. Leadership is something to where you have to really earn your right to it, right? You have to become someone who has the ability to lead other people, and building a successful company is all about having an incredible team.
Yeah.
And you may be able to attract amazing talent, but retaining them is an entirely different story if you're not a great leader, right? And you have to be someone who very, very high level talent is willing to be led by in different aspects. And so that comes from setting your ego aside. It comes from taking ownership over everything. It comes from constantly collecting feedback, looking at all the constraints in the company, like where can you improve, scheduling one-on-one cadences, and just building a very candid relationship with the team, and not only giving feedback, but also receiving it constantly and looking for ways that you can improve. I've read plenty of books on leadership. I've taken courses around it, and I've made it a priority because it's required to grow a team. We've now grown to 103 people last I checked in our company in the last 2 years. And there's differences as well because we're fully remote versus in person. And so on the remote side,
how do you know the difference if you haven't run an in-person team?
I have run in-person teams also. Yeah, I worked out of an office for a little over 2 years, and in person, we had a team of about 12 people in the office with me. And then our total team size for that company was about 25 people.
And what do you think the biggest differences are for virtual versus in-person?
It's less about the leadership dynamics and more about the systems that you have in place. And a lot of companies have a remote workforce without, as much dialed in KPIs and measures as I would say. A lot of people have concerns of hiring remote employees, and you see those viral videos of people going to the beach at 2 p.m. and not working or whatever the case. And so we've gotten very, very structured of all of our team members in every role throughout the company having a lot of KPIs, reporting systems, accountability measures in place. And I feel that we've done a really good job of, and the company says, protecting ourselves from having people come in who aren't working, right? And we also, that's the culture that we've built. It's a huge thing that we hire off of on people not just coming in and looking for a 9-to-5 opportunity. Like we don't really have business hours. We're locked in on the weekends. I want my team to, if I'm reaching out later at night, early in the morning, everything in between, people are responsive. And I want people who love to work and are obsessive about work. I don't want people who just look at it as a paycheck or a job.
Yeah.
And we screen for that pretty well through the interviewing process. And so it's created a great culture. And if that is you, in terms of you just look at a paycheck, a 9-to-5 job for whatever career that you take on, you're going to very quickly see and feel that it's not a fit with us at Media Scaling, right? And so it kind of naturally pushes people out in that aspect too.
Right. You said earlier that you have to earn, like your leadership, like you have to earn the trust of those. And I agree with that. How do you do that?
I think a lot of it is leading by example, and people see the amount of
And what
effort.
example specifically? Like, what do you do to lead by example?
Yeah, the level of effort that I put into it. They see how much I work and how obsessive I am. This is my only focus solely for media scaling in the company. I'm not the type of entrepreneur who is scattered and working on a bunch of different opportunities. And I always want to check in with the team. I want to know them on a personal level outside of just like,
You mentioned one-on-ones. Like, do you have one-on-ones with everybody on your team or just their core?
No. Yeah, just direct
core
reports.
Yeah.
And then we have structures to where, we have multiple tiers of management. So our managers have one-on-ones with their direct reports and so on and so forth. But
And I'm curious, like, how do you lead a one-on-one? What does that look like? What's the structure?
Yeah, usually it's just...
Because that's such an important interaction, I think.
Yeah, definitely. Usually for me, I just start by getting a gauge of, some talk of like, how are things going personally in your life? And, it depends on the person, but asking about their spouse or asking about their kids or whatever they have going on. And then we'll lead into first just asking for feedback of on your day-to-day workflow, how are things going? What are the largest constraints and challenges that you're dealing with? What are you seeing is helping you the most in the workplace? What feedback do you have for us? And then we usually will take all that information, and before the one-on-one, if there's any main talking points that I want to cover, that'll be prepared. And so I'll go into that on the latter half of the call as well. And then usually they're, around 30, 45 minutes or so, and can kind of just fill it out and let it take its flow. Yeah. But it's not like a minute by minute structure that we have, but that's the general format that we follow.
I've always found firing to be a pain in the ass and very uncomfortable. How do you handle an underperformer?
I've changed my mindset on that. The biggest metric that I really pay attention to for longevity of team members on the team is rate of progress.
Rate of progress, define that better.
So if someone makes mistakes, like that's going to happen. But what I want to see is if we provide feedback and we schedule a one-on-one and we talk through issues that they're dealing with, I want to see a fast rate of progress. I want to see them improve quickly. If there's the same repeated mistakes that are happening, that's a bigger issue. And usually at that point, it deserves a replacement. But if we're seeing people who are growing fast, they take feedback and implement it quickly, then they have a very long spot with us inside of the company. And in terms of firing and replacing, it'll start by if we see repeated mistakes or KPIs not being met, key performance indicators, then we'll address it first and check in and say, hey, what's going on? How can we support you more? Are there any gaps in training that we can provide? And we'll go through that process. And there's some variables, but overall, if we go through that and then we don't see that fast rate of progress, then we have low patience and tolerance because it affects so many other people on the team. And at that point, we're replacing.
The whole team will descend to the lowest common denominator. I learned that in the SEAL teams. Like you cannot allow low performers on the team for long.
Yeah. And it also, like one low performer, it's like the weakest link at the chain can break the entire chain. And that could create dissatisfaction with the client that leads to the client canceling. And that affects the entire team, and a lot of ripple effects that happen from it as well. Definitely. So I've also learned over the years, every time that I've let someone go, it's kind of like a big relief and a lot of opportunity on the other side. Yeah, because everyone else feels that as well. Yeah. And understanding, yes, it's one hard conversation, but a lot of benefit is on the other side of that conversation. Yeah. It's really changed my perspective to where now I dread it way less than I used to. And it's become a much easier thing for me to handle.
That's a great perspective. I really like that. Yeah, it's kind of rip the Band-Aid off and you feel the relief.
Yeah, it's like a weight off your shoulder.
So focus on the relief that's going to be there instead of the temporary pain of
Right.
the pandemic.
Right. Yep.
You talked a lot about KPIs, and I agree they're so important. And also, like for me, because I'm more of a creative, they're difficult, to develop. I think maybe not for you, but so what are some of the most valuable KPIs that you guys track?
It completely depends on the role, and we have found I like simplicity. And so if we can just measure someone by one KPI to keep it simple and core, at least from like a high level company view,
like figure out what their major contribution.
Yep.
And are you doing like leading KPIs or lagging?
It's more so for team members leading.
Yeah,
well, it depends on the role, actually. Yeah. Our editors' views is a big KPI that we pay attention to. And that's lagging. For social media managers, we're really looking at the total posts per day that they're managing. And then lagging indicators such as views and performance on the accounts. So it kind of goes hand in hand. We have, for different roles in the company, we call it a strike system. But with all of our editors, they need to maintain a 3-day lead. And if they fall behind on their 3-day lead and they don't have...
You mean like in terms of backlog of content and whatnot?
Yeah, just content ready to go. Because that gives... We have a double layer review process
in case
of every
gets
video
injured
before
or
it's
you have
published.
A sick day.
The sick day, it gives time for revision requests that come up. And it's not too far of a lead to where we can still be very quick in terms of trends coming out, news, so we can be more mobile. But if they don't have their 3-day lead submitted by 10 a.m. Central Time each day, then they get a strike. We only give 3 strikes every 6 months, and then it resets. The first strike is a warning. The second strike is a pay doc. And the third strike is a further pay doc and termination by discretion.
Wow.
And we have that for different roles in the company because we were having a lot of issues with people not having their lead or not meeting their KPIs. And that really fixed it once we implemented it.
How much
and then
do
most
importantly,
importantly, held it accountable. It depends on the role. It's not like, it's meaningful enough to where they're not going to be excited about it, but it's not also putting them in a bad spot, right? So it's kind of like proportional.
How do you think that would fly with my team? Probably not so well. Although I really like it.
That's more
was that an industry practice, or did you just come up with that on your own?
We came up with it ourselves. But that's more so the roles for our editors and social media managers that have like very structured, similar like day-by-day tasks and responsibilities they need to meet. For more of like a higher level, like management, upper management leadership role, we don't have a strike system because it's always different every day and what's going on.
Fascinating. Of course, I'm really curious. I want to get into kind of like the technical aspects of effective social media marketing because you're on the cutting edge of that. But before that, kind of like, let's go back a little bit and talk about how and why you started this business. I mean, you mentioned you've scaled up to over 100 employees in 2 years. I mean, that's pretty quick growth. Of course, your name is Scaling Media. So if you're not scaling, of course, you want to scale your clients too. But tell us the how and the why about the origin story.
Yeah, in terms of origin story, so myself, I co-founded Media Scaling with my partner. His name's Spencer Murphy. We grew up together. We've known each other since we were 9 years old.
And do you complement each other in terms of skills? Like, is he the quant data guy and you're the creative, or is it the other way around?
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm more of the visionary, like front-end focused, sales marketing. And he is the brains and the genius of building out the fulfillment systems. The implementer, so he's very on the back end, operations, fulfillment, everything that falls into that arena.
That's such a powerful compliment to have that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's not one of those to where it's just like, hey, we're both friends and we like this, and so let's start a business together. It was very complimentary.
In the industry as well?
When we were, we're young, but at the same time, we grew up in an era to where we started getting served content on social media when we were 16, 17 years old, talking about business, teaching digital marketing. I started investing in courses when I was still in high school. And so that allowed me to get really a jump start in the workspace. And he was doing the same.
Yeah, you were let's see, 2008 when the iPhone came out. So you were like 8 or 10 years old, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
My first iPhone was the 3GS. So both of us followed a similar journey. And then through that process, we I had my own agency for a period of time and was working with local businesses, primarily running Facebook ads. And I worked with real estate agents, stem cell clinics was a niche, and then COVID shut that down. And then I pivoted and started working with contractors, helping them generate kitchen and bath renovations and remodels through Facebook ads. At the same time, my partner Spencer was working with a larger personal brand who taught copywriting and email marketing named Jason Capital, and started working with him when he was about 30,000 followers across socials. Over the next 4 years, they grew to more than 6 million collective followers across platforms. And then through that time period, I got introduced and started working with someone named Manny Koshman, who's based in Orange County, a little bit above us. That's what pulled me out from Texas to California. And he, at the time, had about 3 million collective followers across platforms. He's largely known for his world-class car collection, but he made a lot of money investing in commercial real estate. So I built him or helped lead building a coaching company for him, teaching others how to build commercial real estate portfolios as well. And he was more so the face and let me largely run it to where it felt like my company. I would make most of the hiring strategy decisions. I owned the P&L, like everything that went into that. And so it was amazing knowledge of being on the back end of this large personal brand and building a coaching company and having all aspects of the division around that. And my partner was doing the same. And then in 2020...
By the way, when you left him, what happened? Because you were such a key player there. Was he able to find another year?
So I gave him a notice. I got the itch and wanted to start a commercial real estate investment firm, which ended up being a failed business for me. My timing was horrible. But I gave him a notice and told him I would stay as long as I needed to for us to feel like we brought in a good replacement and would make it a smooth transition. So I stayed for about 4 months after giving the notice. We were working with multiple recruiters, interviewed a lot of candidates, and unfortunately, it still didn't work out. I've learned a lot more about recruiting since then, and I would have, based on my current day experience, hired differently, knowing what I know now. But he just didn't have enough aligned industry experience in the coaching and digital marketing space. He came from more of a software background. And from what I've learned of the team, a lot was changed after I left because it was very systemized and running in a good spot and didn't need as much of my day-to-day involvement. But a lot of that was changed. And the company no longer exists, unfortunately.
Wow.
Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah, it was shut down a year and a half ago or so, which is a bummer. But
it was good for him when someone else is running the show and checks are rolling in. But.
Yeah, and it's also, he has such incredible major opportunity in front of him investing in commercial real estate.
Yeah, he couldn't be burdened by the coaching.
Yeah. So it was more of a distraction in the sense of, the opportunity of where he could put his focus.
Well, you got to ride one horse at a time.
Yeah.
I mean, it only worked because he had you riding the other horse.
Yep.
Hey, look, I'm 61 years old, and I put in physical workouts and a schedule that would break a lot of guys half my age. And I plan on doing that for decades to come. If you want a lifestyle that defies your age, a great place to start is by adding Qualia Senolytic to your wellness routine. Qualia Senolytic does something that science didn't even know was possible until 2015. As you get older, your body accumulates something called senescent cells. They're also called zombie cells because they're old cells that no longer do their job, but they hang around in us anyways, wasting energy and nutrition. The older we get, the more we accumulate these things. That leads to many aging challenges, slower recovery, lower energy, joint pain, and simply feeling old. In 2015, scientists at Scripps and Mayo Clinic discovered that there's natural plant-derived ingredients that help your body eliminate these senescent cells. And Qualia Senolytic combines 9 of these game-changing ingredients into a simple supplement. The difference that Qualia Senolytic has made for my own aging process has been incredible. I'm living a lifestyle of someone half my age by keeping these senescent cells to a minimum so my energy and vitality can stay through the roof. So, to feel in your prime way longer than you thought possible, you got to try Qualia Senolytic. And you can try it for up to 50% off now by going to qualialife.com/divine15. Again, qualialife.com, QUALIALIFE.com/divine15. That's DIVINE. Use the code divine15 at checkout for an extra 15% off. They're backed by a 100-day money-back guarantee. Again, Qualia Senolytic. Go to qualialife.com divine15 and use the code divine15 for an extra 15% off to help you feel in your prime for years to come. Okay, so you left there, tried the commercial real estate. That didn't work out.
Timing is horrible. I started it right when interest rates started hiking monthly.
Probably.
Oh, I love commercial real estate. I am passionate about it, and it's still going to be like more of an investment focus longer term.
Sad, yeah.
But I started that company. It's called Quantity Capital. It basically lost all my money and was running up, like my bank account was running dry. And at the same time, my partner Spencer started working with someone named Iman Gadzhi. And in July 2022 is when they launched the sub-account network, which is what we do for brands. And so essentially what that means is instead of just having one Instagram account, you can create 5 Instagram accounts. Instead of one Facebook page, create 5 YouTube channels, 5 TikTok accounts, 5 Snapchat accounts. And you don't have to even leave it at 5. You can keep going above that if you have the team, the systems, the bandwidth to post more content. But when you have a lot more accounts, it allows you to distribute a lot more content on behalf of the brand. And this shift really happened towards the end of 2021, early 2022.
That's curious to me. Like, you would think that you would want to concentrate eyeballs on a single account.
Yeah. So
it's counterintuitive.
Around that time frame, 2021, 2022, the platforms have largely shifted from following feeds to For You pages, to where now we're constantly being served interest-based content, suggested content from accounts that we don't even follow. And when you look at the insights of short form content, which is the vertical video, 3 minutes or less, across every platform, every single time you post a short form video, majority of the reach goes to non-followers. And it's targeted based on interest using the same data that they use for advertising. So if you're an ex-Navy SEAL, so you probably get served a lot of military-based content because the algorithm knows that's what you like and engage with. And so if someone...
Little do they know, they're wrong. Actually, don't like engaging.
You got to stop watching and liking if that is the case. But so long story short, it's interest-based,
actually, you'd be surprised. I don't even pull up social media at all, ever.
Yeah.
No. I have someone who posts for me.
A good thing in a lot of ways. Yeah, you're delegating. You have the team, which is great. And so every single time you post, 50 to 99% of the reach goes to non-followers that's targeted based on interest.
Interesting.
And now the game has become understanding that the more short form content you post, every single time you post, you get in front of hundreds, thousands, potentially millions of people for free because the reach is free. The cost goes into the content and the team to actually post it out, right? But the reach itself is free. And so it's created this huge arbitrage opportunity to where we're able to consistently come in, build a lot of sub accounts for brands, and we're generating all of our brands somewhere between 5 to 100 million views per month once we really get this built up and running, because the sub accounts allows us to distribute a lot more content, right? There is a law of detrimental return on one account. If you're posting 10 times a day, it's probably not going to perform as well versus if you post twice per day across 5 accounts. So
that's the story. So I know we're deviating into strategy, but go back to the company.
So the story
because my brain is starting to wrap around strategy. I don't want to go there yet.
So Spencer built a full sub account network internally.
Was it his idea, or were there other people playing around with this?
It's credit for Iman. Iman Gadzhi is who he did it for. When they got introduced, Iman told Spencer, he's like, I want to build the Andrew Tate strategy in-house. And Andrew Tate largely went from unknown to the most Google person on the planet in less than 6 months by having an army of accounts posting content of him, and then also being just extremely polarizing. So, regardless of your views on him, he says a lot of stuff I don't agree with, but when you're studying the strategy behind it, there's something there. And so that's what they did. Spencer used a lot of the systems that had been developed from working in prior opportunities to come in and really build out all the tracking systems behind it. He hired the full division, the team, put the training curriculum in place. And then in the first 4 months of launching this, they generated 449 million views.
Good God.
And then within 6 months, they were hitting over 200 million views per month.
Is number of views a better metric than number of followers or number of likes? People don't really care about likes anymore, do they?
Yeah. All the engagement metrics matter. So like likes, comments, shares. But views is our top line, like KPI
'Cause that's
that we
your
really
reach.
pay attention to.
Yeah.
And then you can start to determine the quality of the views by the level of engagement.
Got it.
Because it is possible to, let's say, get 100,000 views, but have very low engagement on it. And so that shows it's kind of more like shadow views, if you will, versus if the engagement is high as well. And we're starting to track ratios of like views to profile visits and views to follows, views to link clicks. And the higher those ratios are, to us, that tells us there's a higher value per view on that as well, because we're creating more brand alignment.
Right.
A lot of people can just post content that doesn't have a lot of brand alignment, or it's talking about a topic that doesn't really benefit their business.
Yeah.
And so those are much lower value views versus if the alignment is there. However, views is our top line, like main KPI that we look at overall.
Yeah.
Following size matters much less than it used to, because of the aspect of every post goes to majority non-follower reach.
Right.
And we've had it happen countless times of new accounts that have hundreds of followers or maybe 1,000 something followers have videos go viral, because the algorithm is now designed to put a lot more emphasis of content quality instead of audience size. That wasn't the case 5 years ago. It's like audience size mattered a bunch, and the biggest influencers, the biggest creators.
It still seems like, though, most people are fixated on followers, you know?
Yeah, it's
like so-and-so has 1 million followers, and you're like, whoa.
I mean,
but if he's only reaching half of them or a third of them.
It's a great credibility thing. It's also like vanity metrics, sure, but there's a lot of credibility that comes as well
like
when you have a big following.
1.4 million followers, but they're not very engaged because they were built up over like 16 years.
Sure.
And most of them moved on, or
yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We just don't get a lot of engagement from that account.
Right. And it's very normal. What platform is that?
That's Facebook.
Facebook, yeah.
Yeah, we do we get a lot of engagement on Instagram and LinkedIn. And we're just starting out in TikTok.
Okay.
We should be more in TikTok, but
yeah. That's another thing, is short form content works across all platforms.
Right.
And so you should post it across all platforms, just because it's high leverage, right? It's like, it's lower effort to just post it out. The highest effort part is actually creating the content, you know? So once you have it, post it everywhere.
Now, you as a company help create content?
So it depends.
Or mold it for the platform.
Yes. So we have two types of clients we work with: personal brands and consumer brands. Personal brands is, you know, like you have a personal brand. Consumer brand is more so, it could be an e-commerce company, a SaaS company, just anything more D2C, direct to consumer. On the personal brand side, the only element that we do not do for our clients is the production, in the sense, like, we're not sending someone out to film with them in person. All of our clients have a videographer.
If we had a really great podcast clip, you could pull shorts from there.
Yep.
And so you do all the rest of the work.
So I look at it as four pillars, really. You have pillar 1 is strategy. Pillar 2 is production, which is filming the content. Pillar 3 is post-production, which is editing. And then pillar 4 is distribution, where you're actually posting it out. So we do strategy, post-production, editing, distribution. The only thing we don't do is the production. All of our clients have a videographer, and many times a full media team behind them. And then on the strategy element, we're constantly sending over a shot list of types of videos to create, great video hooks that they could do. We'll even do like a script outline, et cetera. So we can really help shape, and I look at that as more like engineer and a more effective content strategy, and then execute on the back end through the editing, the distribution, conversion strategies that we do, et cetera. On the consumer brand side, the approach of how we help people there is we will build an army of UGC creators, which stands for user generated content, and influencers to create content on their behalf, because unless they're a media network or just television network or whatever, then sure, we could clip and repurpose. But a lot of the time, they don't have like this big media network. There's not, the founder isn't in front of the camera all the time. And so we need to do everything for them, from the strategy, production, post-production, and distribution. And the way we do that is through the army of UGC creators and influencers, creating content on their behalf, and then we'll still handle the rest from there.
That's cool. So you and your partner came together just literally 2 years ago, so 2023 or 22?
We founded Media Scaling in February 2023.
That's incredible. All right, and so did you have any clients to start with, or did you have to just immediately hit the phone?
Yeah, fully bootstrapped. The first client that we signed was through a referral in our network. And then on top of tapping into referrals through our network, we also was doing cold emails. I had a lot of experience like through cold email sales outreach in that format. And that's how we started the company and grew for the first year.
You already had an email list built between the two of you?
That was a big part of the beginning of the company. We created what we called our Dream 1000 list. And we just went and put all of our dream clients. It was strictly personal brands at that point. And so first we made a name of like every dream client we wanted to work with.
I don't remember getting an email from you. Guess I wasn't a dream client.
Maybe you did. So once we put that list together, then there's a variety of softwares. And if you go on Upwork and type in lead scraper or data scraper, there's a huge marketplace of people for very cheap that all they do is find emails of people and content information. So once we had the list together, there's some softwares we used, and then we employed a data scraper to go out and find people's contact information, and then we emailed them from there.
That's cool.
And our first client...
That's another difference, by the way, between a 27-year-old entrepreneur and a 61-year-old. These tools you're talking about, I'm like, huh? Really? That exists? I didn't know that.
Email is it's such a powerful tool. And to really, like, a lot of the biggest corporate companies in the world still largely produce a lot of revenue through sales outbound outreach, email, cold calling, mailers, social engagement. Like it's not just a small new business thing.
You got to be doing direct to consumer, I think. Even some of the big car brands are doing that.
It's very powerful.
It's a big part of the strategy.
And the cost is very low.
Right.
Yeah, comparatively. And you can be very, very targeted as well. Like for us, we were extremely specific about only reaching out to people who we knew we could really help.
Right.
And so we were extremely targeted with all the outreach from day one. And email allows you to do that. Our first client, we signed towards the beginning of March, and immediately we had to go out and hire 12 people. So within 2 months
it's a big client.
Yeah, big client. And then our second client, same size.
What's the ideal size of client? I mean, in terms of your engagement?
Our really ideal client profile are 8 to 10 figure personal brands and consumer brands.
Okay.
Usually at that point, they have if it's a personal brand side, they usually have a lot of content. They've been doing it for a while.
Yeah.
They have proof of virality, and they also have the business on the back end to really benefit, monetize. If we come in and we generate 5, 10, whatever million views, they're very good at making sure that that's turning into revenue for the business.
Right.
If we do it for someone who's a smaller business, they don't have the systems, the fulfillment in place, the scalability. They just don't do as good of a job of capturing and monetizing that attention.
Got it.
So it's really for 8-figure plus to capitalize on it the best. And then also it takes an entire media division to do this. So
Chase said we got to get there quick, huh? Okay, if I was a new client, what would you do for me?
Yeah.
So how would you set me up for success?
The onboarding process is pretty simple. The main thing that we need is access to the content library of the client that we're working with, or the brand. Most people have all the content already stored in Google Drive or Dropbox or whatever. And then step 1 is we create a brand identity document for you, and we'll review that on your welcome call, just to make sure that everything that we do is in full alignment with your brand. It matches your brand, your values, your voice, like what you really want to build into the marketplace. And then from there, we pretty much handle the rest. We're assembling the team.
No, I mean like strategy-wise.
Strategy-wise.
Like how would you 10x or 20x my engagement and my, I guess, views?
Yeah. Great question. So we start by analyzing all of your content. And then we want to look at top level views and then also engagement, but pay attention to your top performing content and then really study that and look at what were the topics, what were the hooks, what was the type of content itself.
Right.
We can even feed that into ChatGPT and then ask ChatGPT to give us a detailed analysis and report based on its findings of the patterns in that top performing content. Additionally, we are going to, after we create the brand identity worksheet, we're going to go out and start doing a lot of research with similar content types that have performed the best across socials. The best tools to do that is TikTok search and viewstats.com. Both of them are largely a search engine platform for short form and long form content. And so like on TikTok, it's free. You can go and you could search, and like what would you say is like one of the main keywords as part of your brand? Peak performance?
Yeah, peak performance. Mental toughness.
Mental toughness.
Mark Divine.
So let's say mental toughness. You can go to TikTok, search mental toughness, and it's going to show you all the top performing content under that category. And then you can pay attention to the hooks that's being used, the types of videos that are being used. Let's look at the captions and just study it. And if you sit down for 4 hours, cup of coffee, and you really hone in and you just study what's working the best, you're quickly going to get a lot of ideas that come from it. And then additionally, we have now a full process of how we use ChatGPT along with each of these measures.
Right.
And so with ChatGPT, step one is we want to create a project folder, which is basically like the brain for your brand. And then we'll feed it everything about your brand, your website, your copy, different materials, all marketing assets, transcripts of videos that you've done, just everything. So it really starts to learn a lot. And then it also already has a lot of data if you're out there on the internet
basically
regardless.
educating it, right?
Yeah.
Just like,
just like a new employee, right? Like we train it on your brand like an employee, and then it becomes your smartest employee ever times 1,000.
That's amazing.
And from there, next step is we'll use that to put together, we call it a super consumer. So a term that I learned from a mentor of mine, Charles Gaudet. But basically, it's like an ICP, ideal client or customer profile. It's like that, but honing in on like who is truly the top person who you want to speak to and attract in your content. When you get clarity of creating content for your super consumer or for your ideal customer, and everything kind of revolves around that, it makes it easier. You have a lot of clarity of what you're speaking about in your content. And then third step, we create the brand identity, and we also feed that into ChatGPT. And then fourth step, once we've done all of that, you can ask ChatGPT, hey, based on all this that you know, build me out all the content topics and the content strategy for my brand that's going to attract my super consumer or my ideal client profile. And the information it gives you is incredible.
I bet it is.
Yeah. And so it'll give you a variety of topics. That way, another thing is like with me, we're social media growth. But if I only talked about social media growth in all of my short form videos and all my content, it's going to hit like brand and audience fatigue. It's too zoned in on one topic. And so what you want to do is create a variety of topics that you speak on, but it all still resonates and is relatable and valuable to your super consumer or to your ICP, right? So that way you're more well-rounded. ChatGPT can give you a great game plan for it. And then let's say that it gives you 10 topics. You can then feed it a prompt and say, okay, write me 20 scroll stopping hooks and video script outlines based on all these topics that are going to make my super consumer feel like they have to watch the video. And it pumps it out, and it's incredible of what it gives you. And then AI is not in the place where you just take it as gospel of like, all right, this is what we should do. So then we validate with data, following the processes of what I talked about of analyzing all of your content, and then really going and doing a lot of research on platforms of all the proven content in peak performance and mental toughness and any other keywords that we really want to research. And then using all that to add intuition experience of, all right, this is what we're really going to map out from there. Yeah, so that's like kind of the full A to Z approach of when we're starting with clients.
Yeah. All right, guys, let's talk about sweating and stinking. You know the drill. Hit the gym, crush your workout, and then you spend the rest of the day wondering if your friends are dodging you because you stink. Or maybe you want some deodorant, but you're standing in the aisles staring at a sea of boring scents that scream average. That doesn't have to be anymore. Let me introduce you to Cremo. Cremo is a deodorant that's a game changer. 48-hour odor protection. It doesn't just work, it works with style. They're barber-grade pros who put pride and passion into their products. Trust me, you'll feel the difference. No residue, no nonsense, just smooth application and scents that'll make it stand out. Their two signature blends are Italian Bergamot, which is bright, robust, got notes of bergamot, neroli blossom, and fresh vetiver. It's like stepping into a Mediterranean breeze. And then there's Palo Santo, which is smoky, deep, and refined, with hints of cardamom and dry papyrus. It's confidence in a stick. I tried Palo Santo deodorant last week, and I'm hooked. Not only does it last all day, but it makes me feel like I've leveled up my grooming game. And my wife likes it too, so that's a bonus. So why settle for boring when you can elevate your deodorant experience? Head on over to Target or Target.com today to grab Cremo's new line of antiperspirants and deodorants, such as the Italian Bergamot or Palo Santo scents. Again, Target or Target.com. That's where you'll find Cremo. Good, uncommon scents. I imagine your competition is doing the similar thing now with AI, but what a game changer, huh?
Right. We've really been investing a lot of time, attention, and resources into ChatGPT.
Yeah.
So I optimistically hope that not too many competitors are doing it yet.
I mean, do you have a team that does that, or is that like you and your partner? Do you hold that kind of information close held?
Oh, no.
Like how to build that kind of engine?
We've really embedded AI and ChatGPT into our culture.
Across it.
I talk about it all the time. It's like, I want my team to, Brian can attest. It's like they joke about how often I mention ChatGPT, but I've really ingrained it as a habit of our team starting to use it constantly.
Where do you see this going? Because it's changing so fast and you're adding more capabilities and more apps.
Yeah.
Like with your industry or even personally, what do you see coming down the road in the next year or two?
AI generated content is going to continue to become more and more prevalent.
Yeah.
I think that there are going to be more AI influencers coming on scene.
I mean, non-human influencers.
Yep, non-human influencers. For what I talked about of user-generated content like UGC.
Like, why would someone follow a non-human? I don't understand it.
It's like kids like SpongeBob, right? SpongeBob's not human. So it's
like, they think he's real.
Yeah. And then also brand personas. You look at Flo with Progressive. It's like she's maybe a real person, but it's like a persona that could easily, we haven't met her in person. That could easily be AI.
The gecko.
Yeah.
Gecko from Gecko.
It's in our human nature. We still can build relationships. And then it also can become something to where it's already getting there. You don't know if it's AI or real.
And what do you think about the avatar idea? Like, have you had any of your influencer clients have build an AI avatar? Like Marshall Goldsmith, or was it Goldsmith or Gold? Who was the Goldstein? Yeah, the executive coach. Thank you, Marshall Goldstein. He's like, I built this AI. You go to marshallgoldsmith.com or no, it was Goldsmith. Marshallgoldsmith.com, and you can you don't have to talk to him. You get all the answers from the AI. And someone asked me to do that. I'm saying, oh, no, thanks. I'm not sure why I would want to do that.
It's really easy, surprisingly.
I'm sure someone probably already done it for a lot of influencers.
Yeah. For not even just the AI clone side, but inside of ChatGPT, they call it a custom GPT. And basically you can just do that. And then we almost create a custom GPT with the process I just broke down for clients. Like you can go in there, feed it
like
just
if
everything
I was your
about
client,
your brand.
you would create kind of a AI Mark Divine that has a
kind of
facsimile of kind of who I, at least in the past, of what I would say or
yeah. And we would use that internally for the content strategy. It's not like that's an external thing that we would release to your customer or client base. But it's pretty easy to do that if you wanted to as well. You just create a custom GPT, you feed it a lot of information about you, and it starts to know you almost better than you know yourself pretty quickly. It's crazy.
That's pretty wild.
On the AI avatar, there's still aspects that you have to really, where I've seen people be successful with it is if they still are editing on top and feeding it more voice recordings and still really working it to get it to where you can't tell if it's them or not. But if you're just using it as the baseline features of uploading a script and then upload some videos, there's still some giveaways that it's not fully you. I think that window is becoming very short though. And within the next 6 to 12 months, a lot of AI avatars, you won't even be able to tell if it's the real person or not without them needing to put a lot of effort into making that happen. Additionally, on the UGC side,
it's kind of scary when it comes to the political landscape, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. There's going to be a a battle constantly of the social platforms trying to verify, is this AI or not?
Right.
And then AI platforms trying to get around that to where it doesn't get verified.
Interesting.
But yeah, it is scary in different ways. And then on the UGC side, there's already a lot of creators or a lot of softwares that are really targeting brands to create user-generated content through AI avatars. And it's getting really close. There's still some latency. There's still, in the sense like the audio doesn't fully match up or it sounds a little bit AI in the voice, but it's getting so close. And I think also with that, we're about to 6 to 12 months out.
Yep.
And then brand marketing is largely going to become a lot of AI UGC creators on top of just
Yeah,
real people.
these AI titans are all going to be battling for essentially attention.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. Attention is always the most valuable currency.
And when they start to develop capacity to like create their own robotic army, then they'll just go to war against each other for the attention of the humans.
I know.
Maybe that's the beginning of Skynet.
Yeah, the Skynet. That's the scary stuff. I like to be an optimistic, but I think it's important to also really think
trust
through.
and verify.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm with you on that because it's just technology. I'm an optimistic with AI, and we can go down that rabbit hole because I think, consciousness, as it gets more complex, kind of veers toward goodness.
Mm-hmm.
Still has a capacity. But like when you think of human, it's the less complex humans that are more inclined toward evil.
Mm-hmm.
But the more aware, the more complex, the more capacity for greater perspective and evolutionary kind of impulse, then the more you are inclined toward goodness. And so I see the same thing with AI. Like I've seen some conversations that literally blew my mind. Like AI having literally like, enlightened, awakened awareness type answers.
Where have you seen those conversations?
Sam Altman posted one. I can't remember the prompt, but it literally, I was just blown away by the answer. It was pretty cool.
Gave me a great one on the Tao and
Did it?
materialism and boundaries. Mm-hmm.
I remember we talked about that.
Yeah.
You can.
One of the best answers. I've asked the question so many times.
Right.
It's one of the best answers I've ever gotten.
It's really they're called LLMs, large learning models like ChatGPT, Grok.
Right. So they're just scraping information,
Gemini,
but
scraping information.
at some point they could become, again, complexity or awareness or consciousness is just a matter of, complexity of synaptical kind of engineering. Like the more you have going on, eventually you transcend being in it and become aware of it.
Yep.
And whether you're a dolphin, a dog, or a human being. And so I don't have any doubt that AI will become self-aware.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't either. It's, I believe the term is the singularity point.
That's right.
And that's where AI essentially stops learning
technically is when it surpasses all human knowledge or human capacity.
It stops learning from humans and AI starts learning from AI and self-learning. Right. And there are people like Sam Altman talking about that happening this year. But he also seems to be more optimistic in terms of timeline, but I really don't think that we're very far out either. Yeah. So, and nobody can truly tell you what that's going to look like, right? We can theorize. But nobody can truly tell you. I like being optimistic, and regardless of...
It's more fun to be an optimist.
Totally.
It really is.
Yeah, there's more benefit to it just from...
You're going to be a healthier human.
Yeah.
You're going to be more fun to be around.
Yeah.
You're probably going to be more successful.
Yeah. Yeah. And then if
thing.
you take full advantage of the arbitrage opportunities available right now using AI in a lot of the ways that I'm talking about, then it's a huge edge currently.
Yeah. How do you stay ahead of the platforms who are constantly changing algorithms? And, remember when Facebook ripped its, the rug out from people a couple of years ago, and then Apple did the same thing with app developers.
Yep. It's less about staying ahead and more about staying adaptable and staying on top of it. Okay. Every single time that the platforms update the algorithm, they release articles about the updates and what they did. And so we're, signed up to all the correct lists. We have the contacts at different companies to where anytime that there's algorithm updates coming out, we're reading it. We're very aware of what's happening. And if there's anything of note that may change our strategy, then we're going to pivot and adapt right away. Right. And then also it's just, we are extremely data driven. We track everything that we do. And so a lot of the time we're using that to gather insights of what we can lean into further that's working the best and lean away from that's not working the best. Right. And that allows us to be very innovative in our approach. And what we're doing 6 months ago, 3 months ago, may not necessarily be exactly what we're doing today. Right. The general strategy still works and will continue to, of just posting more higher volume of quality content, right? Like that's the general strategy and approach overall. And in terms of like all the exact execution pieces, that's where we can be very adaptable.
Yeah. That's great stuff. We got to wrap up here pretty soon, but like, what do you consider to be your superpower?
It's a good question. I'd say my obsessiveness above all else. I'm very, very obsessive about what we're doing, what we're building. I love it. My brain never turns off.
So that's probably the superpower of your company too, right? The attention to detail and the obsession to build your clients' audiences.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. Our full team, we have a great culture, I'd say. And everyone on the team from who are core members of it, loves it from what I can tell.
Yeah.
We all really, really enjoy the process.
They're not going to tell you otherwise anyways.
Yeah. So that's why I say hopefully. But from what I can tell, yeah.
You're an optimist. What do you see the future looking like in 10, 20 years?
Oh man. I really don't
It's hard,
know.
isn't it?
Yeah, it's hard with how fast AI is advancing. Like I truly don't know.
I don't know if many people can really grasp, because you talked about the singularity. Unless you watch a lot of and read a lot of sci-fi and watch a lot of sci-fi, this idea of self-learning that accelerates and then also becomes the ability to self-replicate and to create at an atomic level, like how fast things could change.
Yeah.
Like really fast.
Yeah.
And I think people don't really understand that. Like shit that might have taken 100 or 1,000 years to change could change in a year and then 6 months and then 3 months.
In an instant.
In an instant.
Yeah. Yeah. People didn't even know what ChatGPT was or use AI, at least purposefully, on a daily basis until 2022. It's been like 2.5 years.
Yeah.
Now it's a household thing. Everyone uses it. So.
And it still hasn't really had its kind of Netscape moment, right?
Yeah.
Where there's a good user interface. You know what I mean? A good way to interact it for the average person, interact with it.
Yeah.
You still need to, most people think, I need to be an expert prompt writer and practice. You do, right? So imagine when the interface is what? I don't even know what. Just talking to it.
Yeah. I think it's going to be, you can talk
like
to
a digital
it now.
assistant. Yeah, you can. That's right.
Yeah. I think it's going to be kind of like, phones. There are people like kids who grow up with phones are just really in it and know all the different features. And so it's like the more you use it. I have looked at trainings and taken like mini courses on it, but the more that I've learned about ChatGPT is just from me using it, you know, and the more you use it, the more you play around with it, the better you're going to get at it. And what I've really learned is just the more context you give it, the better the answers are provided.
When you say ChatGPT, are you talking about any AI platform, or do you particularly like that versus say Grok or Perplexity or Gemini?
I'm not using them to the degree of like every single, like the way that we use it, they're all kind of the same to me. Yeah. And I don't think it's going to make a big enough impactful
but you've
difference
invested so much in ChatGPT that you're just sticking with it.
Yeah, overall. ChatGPT, Grok, like there's Perplexity, there's all of them. I will say I have tested a few, like of doing a lot of large data sheet, like switching columns around and formatting, et cetera. And it like broke Grok really quick. Really? And this was 2 weeks ago. I was testing this and ChatGPT did it great. Yeah. So that's the only time I've seen a difference between two platforms. Outside of that,
for different things.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. There's more niche AI agents that go into it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd say just really play around with it. Feed it a lot of context. One of the things that we just rolled out recently in the company to, again, make it more part of the culture is we rolled out a new policy. Before anyone in the company asks a team member or a manager a question, you have to ask ChatGPT first.
Interesting.
And a lot of the time it gives the better answer, and it creates a much higher level of self-efficiency, of resourcefulness, and the team just moving faster. And it gets them in the habit of actually using it for all questions that come up, and using it in their workflow. And you think about, like, if someone were to Slack me a question, I get hundreds of Slacks messages a day. It may take me 4 hours to get to it. Versus if they ask ChatGPT and they get it instantly and they get the right answer, that just saves a 4-hour constraint. And that happens hundreds and thousands of times across the entire company. It creates way more efficiency across the board. So that's been a pretty cool
thing. That's our tip for the day.
Yeah.
I love that one.
It's been pretty cool. It's helped a lot.
Awesome, Logan. What about for people who want to learn more about you and your company? Where do they find you?
The company is mediascaling.com. We have a lot of free resources around this stuff too. I recently started a YouTube channel that I go very in depth of a lot of these content and brand growth strategies on the YouTube for free. It's all at Logan Forsyth on socials and mediascaling.com.
Right on. Awesome, brother. Thanks for showing up today. Thanks for being here in person. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
It's a
It's
fun
an honor
conversation. I
coming
learned
on
a
the show.
ton. Really interesting.
Amazing. Yeah. It's an honor to be here.
Things are going to change fast. So. Well, that was actually a really interesting conversation with Logan. I'm super stoked to have him here as a guest. I hope you learned as much as I did. Really cool information about his use of ChatGPT for his consumers and growing their audiences, as well as conversation about the future of AI. So again, thanks for joining us on the Mark Divine Show. Show notes are up at markdivine.com. Videos up on our YouTube channel. You can check us out on all our social media. If you haven't rated and reviewed the show, please consider doing so wherever you listen. It helps us stay relevant and helps other people find it as well. Shout out to my amazing team, John at Jet Studios and Catherine Devine, who helped produce this show, bring guests like Logan to you, and also our newsletter every week, which is called Divine Inspiration. Go to markdivine.com to learn more and to subscribe. Thanks again for being part of the change that you want to see in the world, being part of transformation. If you want to see transformation outside, out there, then you're going to have to start in here. It's an inside job. And that's what we're all about here. So thanks again. Till next time, this is your host, Mark Divine. Hoo-yah.